Hello, I'm Britton Clennett and welcome to China Insight, where we discuss the latest issues affecting this rapidly changing country. Well, sandwiched between tradition and modernity, many young people in China are struggling to combine their dreams of love with the expectations of their families. On the show today to discuss marriage pressure in China, I'm joined by Chuck Wong, a professor from the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. He's also an expert on the economics of love and marriage. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
How important is it in China to get married?
Well, it depends on your angle looking at it. From the parents and from your friends and everyone else, it is super important. But I tend to think that it is probably a little bit less important than most parents think.
Okay, well, it may have changed for the individual or the young person, the young independent person in China, but it may not have changed so much for the parents, from the parents' point of view.
Well, unfortunately, our brain seems to evolve a lot slower than the environment. So most people, like my generation, I mean, I'm roughly about the generation of the young people's parents, we evolve very slowly. We still think that the world is probably still very difficult for women to find a job. Well, it is not quite the case anymore, and that we're still thinking about the world. We need children to provide sort of a pension for us, while in the real world, it is more the parents providing money for the young generation, right? So the world has changed a lot, but our concept of the world has not.
Okay, well, I'm glad you brought that up. The following report looks into the pressures of marriage a little closer. Let's take a look.
We're here at People's Square, where once again hundreds of people have come to the market. But it's not just any kind of market. There are no properties or items on offer here, but rather actual people. Sons and daughters who are single and whose parents are desperately trying to match them up with the highest bidder. The tension in the air is tangible.
Height, age, income, education, household registration. A life's achievements summed up on a sheet of A4 paper, pinned to an umbrella. Except the persons being advertised may not know they're being touted like this. And by their parents too, who hide from the cameras for fear of being exposed. The decade-old marriage market in Shanghai's People's Park is just one of many. Most cities host these gatherings, which speak of the pressure faced by the unmarried, from parents and society alike, to conform in a culture that values continuation of the family line.
我是在一家杂志社做编辑，情况就是单身无男友，传统意义上的那种大龄单身女青年。哎，这个绣球，这是国产的绣球，就只有这个颜色的，对不对？有没有稍微可以放得久一点的？
A top-tier university graduate with a steady job in Shanghai. Life certainly seems to have turned out great for Fei Wei from Zhejiang province. Yet none of her success seemed to matter the moment she turned 25.
我过了25岁之后，我妈只要跟我打电话，说任何事情，她最后可能绕，都会绕到这个啊，为什么还没有找男朋友啊？最近有什么最新情况啊？想跟大家在一起聊天，聊到我的时候，聊着就回到了这个话题。那个时候我就觉得好像有一点压力了，因为聊不出其他的范围了。那老板娘，我先走了啊，拜拜。
洋房是吧？是。
你要那么多来干嘛？再挑一朵小的白色的，其他几朵不要用。等一下我忘了。
Out of work, Fei Wei spends her free time teaching a floristry
就
course.
修这么一半。
举例修一下好不好？
但是你有没有发现这朵打得很漂亮，把你后面那朵挡住了？插花就是把你不同的物种放在一起，看起来像是一个物种，不然插花就没什么意思了。
你妈最近怎样啊？
最近我妈没啥实际行动，但是她会在有言语暴力。25岁已经走下坡路了，这是我妈的经典名言。我现在已经是一个就是需要打折才能出售的货。
那她怎么把你出售啊？
现在看起来这个货也不太好卖，所以我妈最近比较消停。
26-year-old Daniel Yen returned to China after completing his studies in the UK and now manages a library-cum-bar in Nanjing. After dating his girlfriend for a year and a half, they decided it was time to tie the knot.
A lot of people say, I think, yeah, Western, I think too. I mean, one man can wait. The girls on the other side is just not like that. So my stress mostly comes from my girlfriends.
Once the couple threw themselves into planning their wedding, they quickly realized that getting married in China is anything but cheap. The engagement ring, the expensive ceremony, and the pre-wedding photo shoot, the costs rapidly started to mount up.
有点内涵在里面。
我就不喜欢那种风景。
这一套我觉得就挺好的。
我还是比较传统的。
大理。
My girlfriend and her family are quite traditional. You know, like a traditional Chinese family. They wish that the wedding could be like huge, or you know, just like face stuff, right? Like they just don't want to lose face. So they kind of wishing the wedding should be like yeah, like amazing. 想拍一套大概多少钱？
这是我们的价目表，看一下啊。这个是友谊，是我们的老大。
大概。
这个跟那个刚刚给我看的那个新的有点像。
With an income of less than $1,000 per month, to Daniel getting married has become a financial headache.
所以现在这个点灯就开了，更浪漫。这个雨是怎么弄出来？我们前伞，一般相机伞都因为我们全部都按照样片来走，因为每个人的个性不一样，性格也不一样，按照
We can't like get this amount of money, like because we tried every solution to minimize the cost of the wedding. So we only need like 150,000 kuai to get married. So compare with the cost of the normal family to get married, which are about let's say 300 or 400,000 kuai, is quite low actually. It's quite low. Until now we haven't figured out anything.
Fei Wei's hometown is just 40 minutes from Shanghai by high-speed train. However, the visits home are no longer a pleasure for the young professional.
我现在把回家认为就是一个攻坚战。就我现在每次回去，我朋友说你去干嘛了，我都说我跟父母斗智斗勇去了。因为回家的话，就可能就变成了全面战争了，就不止我要应付我爸妈，可能还有我爷爷奶奶、外公外婆，那还有我很多亲戚。
Fei Wei's mother, a small-town primary school teacher, is merely passing on to her daughter the pressure she faces herself from colleagues and friends who frequently ask about her daughter and whether she's still single.
Feifei is still very young. Why are you so worried about her getting married as soon as possible?
基本上像她那个年龄，在我们这里基本上结婚了，就剩下她一个人还没找对象。特别是她的外公啊、外婆、爷爷奶奶这种年纪大的更要提了。他们说年纪大了，啊，总是盼着这一天，看到她结婚这样子。催嘛是催她的，跟她说的，能够碰到合适的嘛，就是自己主动一点也没关系啊。但是最终还是要她决定的。
哎，你们那个中经社的那个工商年报要开始搞了，2016年。
就是那个报表啊。
你们还有人在搞？
不是会计已经出来过了吗？是吊郎啊，混日子是吧？我最近周末，哎，生日嘛。啊？
我饭还没消化。
我这边是比较惨，我大学毕业的时候我讲了，我说那个叫什么呢？那个反正我当时是觉得我肯定是第一个结婚的，结果我到现在我周围的人都结婚了，就差我一个没结。我有一个89年的朋友，现在孩子都3岁了。I think most of the Chinese men, they are more tending to get married with the housewife type. But I don't think that is quite correct, because think about it, if the woman if the women stay at home to care about the family, which means the pressure that put on the man's shoulder will be like twice. So I feel like that is the reason somehow caused a lot of like conflicts within the Chinese family relationship.
其实，所以我觉得，其实在这边，其实结婚其实有时候挺没意思的。你把什么事情都，特别是物质方面的事情太掺杂在里面的话，我觉得结婚一点意思都没有。所以搞得我现在好像都没有什么太想结婚的一些想法了，我就觉得没有什么激情，没有什么激情，累得不得了。
Hello，今天怎么有空过来啊？
喝咖啡啊，想你们家咖啡。
啊，我正好
有新东西。
对的，
拿出来看一下可以吗？来你这儿的单身居多吧？真的，我每次来你这边遇到朋友，哪个不是单身？要么就结了婚生了小孩。
其实我们2个人真的蛮独立的，真心很独立。
我就喜欢你们这样的状态。
那你就单身狗嘛，好了呀，何必再有一个牵挂
呢？我同意。如果说你到30几岁一直都是的话，可能你也需要自我反思，就是你在找的这个人是不是真的存在，或者说是你自己需要的那些跟你自己本身匹不匹配，这个我觉得是你可以自己去考虑的，但也没有像其他人说的那么严重，说你这个人有问题，我觉得这个太过了。我想生个小孩呢，那一天突然，
那你结婚就是为了生孩子吗？
所以说这个结婚目的不纯粹嘛，所以就觉得这样的婚姻并不好嘛。他们可能想的都是一些可以列出来的条件，就说啊，学历怎么样啊，年龄怎么样啊，收入怎么样啊，可能这些东西并不代表他本身这个人是什么样的一个人。所以我就是觉得，投缘、聊得来、三观一致，对于我来说是比较重要的。
The rapidly growing economy is powering a social transformation in China. In the urban concrete jungle, communal life still survives. But many Chinese are struggling to establish an identity amid a clash of traditional and modern values. Recent research has revealed that the number of singles in the country currently amounts to 200 million, the equivalent of Brazil's entire population. This suggests that, to the younger generation, getting married no longer seems to be an indispensable part of life.
There's definitely a gap between the young generation with the old generation. Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, the parents are still controlling the kids, but not that strong anymore. So they have time to be, wasted. They have time to have fun. They are not quite rushing to getting married, actually.
其实我不太喜欢人家用单身非单身来评判一个人。我是不是 单身其实是我自己选择的一个权利，我并不觉得像大家说的，我现在这个年纪单身，我有多么的可怜，我有很多事情要自己做。我觉得如果我选择单身，你也不需要同情我。那当然，这也不是一件值得骄傲的事情，并没有因为觉得我单身，然后我自己独立，我的生活过得很好，特别骄傲。我觉得这就是一个普通的状态。
One way or another, the younger generation are attempting to escape the marriage pressure. Now it's up to the parents to make a choice. Defend their child's right to decide what's best for them, or face the prospect of perhaps years waiting to find them a maybe unwanted partner.
In your view, why do young people get married in China these days? Is it for love? Convenience?
It really depends on who you're talking about, because when we talk about China, we frequently think that it is one country. But to me, Beijing, Shanghai, and some other cities are as different as like between countries.
Right, well, you're dealing with different socio-economic contexts.
Yeah, it's very, very different. So it really depends on, for some of the more remote places, it probably is still very much the case that marriage is very important for essentially survival of people, because you have to put resources together, you have to work together to gain enough to survive and so on. But for some of the more middle classes, this is a very different story. Really depend on more personal things rather than for economics.
Okay, well then let's talk about that middle class, right? Yeah. This expanding middle class in China. I want to ask you whether you think the trend is for them to marry for love.
Well, certainly, if you see we can prove it in another way from the divorce rate, right? So if you're married for love and if you don't love the person anymore, then you divorce, right?
Right.
And the divorce rate is shooting up a lot.
Well, that's right. Last year, I think it shot up 6% from the year before.
And it's approaching the level of Britain. So it's only a little bit less than the US now. And I believe that this trend is going to continue, because that the process of finding the husband or wife, finding the spouse, is probably not entirely suitable for this modern world.
On this, you mentioned pooling resources together. I'm kind of interested in the rise of so-called naked marriages, that this is sort of a trend in China.
Well, if you look at it, right, in big cities, like for example, like Shanghai, right, in Chinese it's called 丈母娘经济学, the mothers-in-law economics, right? If you don't have a place, you haven't bought a place in Shanghai, you're going to have a pretty hard time finding a good wife.
Right.
So.
Well, this kind of brings us nicely to these marriage markets, right? So, you know, British actor Ian McKellen was in Shanghai kind of recently, and he visited one of these so-called marriage markets and took a selfie, and Chinese netizens were all over it, you know, wondering, there he is there at a marriage market, and kind of at the same time brought the world's attention to it.
Yes.
Why do you think we're so fascinated by this?
Well, I'm fascinated by this as well.
Yeah.
I can never, this is probably Match.com meets farmers market, so it's probably, the successful rate is probably very, very low, I imagine, and it's not very effective.
You know, there is an argument that who's to say this is less effective than going on the internet or dating apps like Tinder?
Well, I wonder, okay, so think about this scenario. When your mom tells, I have just found you the great husband or boyfriend, are you going to be happy? Right?
Well, I mean, it depends. If I'm at a certain age and I'm looking, maybe she's done some work for me.
Well, unless your mother's taste is the same as yours, which my bet is most likely not.
Right.
Right. So,
well, okay, there's a taste, and then there's also, you know, whether he has a house, whether he works in a certain industry, whether his income is over this level. Some women are looking for that.
Yes, some women are looking for that, and then, but unfortunately, we call it this adaptation effect. In fact, most people, there's an experiment on people who have won a lottery. So And after 1 year, they are back to the same happiness level as before. And so all this economics improvement is useful. I'm not saying that it's not useful, but it's far less useful than what most people think. What really makes you happy in life, according to psychological research, is what fulfill your inner motivation, such as love, such as self-actualization, and so on and so forth. You have to satisfy the basic needs, but the basic need is a lot less important than what most people think. How about this? Never getting married or getting married and divorce about 5 years later.
Right.
What is worse? Right? I think that getting married and then divorce is probably much worse than never getting married.
Well, I'll ask you, what's better from an economics point of view?
Well, economists actually don't talk about that much about the economy. We talk about the utility of a person. Utility of a person meaning that how happy you are. This is what our major study is.
Okay.
So, because it doesn't particularly matter if the economy is very good, but you're very unhappy. Right? This is bad economics. So what we are very interested in is what makes the world actually a bit better.
So unhappiness is better for the economy?
Well, it depends. I mean, if happiness, right? Happiness, you will spend a bit more, right? You have developed many other industries. You will travel probably more. You probably donate more. Single people sometimes are much more charitable, right? And you probably participate in charities a lot more. You may be more interested in go and teach some poor kids in the remote part of China and may find your love of your life there. So my belief is that if people just can have a way to live in a way they choose, this is probably better for many different types of industry to develop.
Some would argue it's not so good for social stability.
Social stability, it really depends. Now, if you really want to get married and cannot, right, that is bad, right? Because young men not being able to get married has been one of the major source of crime in every society we have seen.
Especially as China faces this sex ratio imbalance.
Yes, but however, in the cities, right? So in the cities, it is really those women that don't want to get married, and there shouldn't be a lot of pressure on them. So we have to distinguish two types of sort of singlehood. One, those who cannot get married, and the second one, those who don't want to get married.
But what is the solution then?
Well, I think one of the simplest solutions is maybe more education about, first, giving women more jobs, right? So that parents would like to have girls a lot more. So we may not, the sort of the sex ratio of newborns are very skewed. Part of that, we may work towards a solution that will rebalances this problem a lot better. So I think I wouldn't want to say producing more women, but simply having a less skew ratio is probably will help a lot.
Okay, well, Professor, please stay with me a little bit more because I want to talk to you more about the economics of love and marriage. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to China Insight. I've been discussing marriage pressure in China with someone who examines the economics of love and marriage, Professor Chak Wong from the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. Now, China Insight took to the streets of Beijing to gauge the expectations to get married. Let's take a look.
那您父母有没有着急让您
着急啊？
着急是吗？
是啊。
会用什么样的方式让您赶紧去结婚呢？
催我，不是逼他，就是老问。
那您着急让他结婚吗？
有一点儿，因为还是尊重孩子吧。
家长是很着急，但是作为年轻人呢，他还是有一点的。
会怎么说呢？比如说，
就是啊，你该找一个男朋友了。
到岁数了，你不该赶紧找个对象。
然后一般都是相亲吧，让他们自己去朋友介绍或者一些相亲的那种网站吧，主要是这样子。
方式就跟他说一下吧，因为岁数大了，可能以后会难找一点儿。还是要想结婚的话，还是尽量抓紧呗。
如果真的准备结婚的话，您是因为自己想结婚，还是可能是因为让父母开心？
自己吧，自己想结婚，
还是自己接触的那种好，因为我就是那样的。
Are those kind of the answers you expected?
Yeah. So they are under quite a bit of pressure, but the young generation still want to get married because of what they like and what they love, so rather than anything else.
Where do you think the pressure to get married comes from? Is it from the media? Is it directly from the parents? Do you think they really are focused on continuing the bloodline?
Well, we always have a very lockstep and a very simple process. That's what we mean by a good life. So, and given this model is highly ingrained in the society and almost everyone, so we would like to basically, it's like
follow
the steps. And if you don't hit the milestone, right, there's a great anxiety generated inside the person as well as everyone around you. So this becomes a pressure.
And I guess it's also the importance of the family unit, which might not be so dissimilar to other countries in Asia.
Well, this marriage pressure, I think, is in our gene. We want our gene to pass on. This is otherwise, I mean, humans would not have survived. But however, this kind of pressure, sort of the level of the pressure changes depending on the society. In more developed countries, where women have jobs, this pressure is a lot less because the second option of not married is not bad, right? So we call it the substitution. There can be substitution for marriage. I think that from the statistics, the easiest way actually to find the true love of your life is not quite by parents or internet and so on. It's simply introduction by your friends.
We seem to be giving a lot of dating advice on the show today.
So try to hang out with your friends a bit more.
Right. It's interesting. I want to know, in terms of, matchmaking websites and all these kind of, how technology has aided the process as well. How have you seen that change in China in terms of business opportunities?
Well, certainly it will be, my belief is that it's probably we will see a lot more sort of this kind of dating services like speed dating and so on. I don't think that speed dating has come to China yet, but it probably will, and such kind of services. But I think this is probably far less a business opportunity than other opportunity that cater for the changing society. Because we have seen that in almost all Asia developed economies, which Beijing and Shanghai, many of the big cities are entering into, have seen a tremendous increases in sort of single households, so single person household. So, and there are many services that actually particularly cater for them. And I don't think that this is the case for China yet.
That's interesting, monetizing on the young independent people.
Indeed, and they're rich.
And they're rich.
They have different taste. They have very different desire and very different needs. So maybe we should cater for them.
Interesting. Thank you very much for the lively discussion today, Professor.
Thank you.
If you have any comments or questions, please email us at chinainsight@cctv.com, or you can find us on Facebook, Weibo and WeChat. And we'll see you next time for more stories and discussion on China out of China.